there's all sorts of things
Right.
that are happening in Bitcoin right now that could be under that umbrella. But when you start to have people like BlackRock being like, you know what, we actually like Bitcoin now, that's a sign to pay attention. So I think people need to in the Bitcoin space need to be very aware that there is a fight being had right now about the future of Bitcoin, and you have to decide which side you're on. Are you going to fight for Bitcoin to be a tool of financial freedom, or are you going to allow it to be co-opted by the powers that be that it was supposedly designed to resist them and be something they can't control? Are you going to give them control of it? I mean, the answer should be no to any Bitcoiner worth respecting, in my opinion.
According to Whitney Webb, there is a plan to subjugate the entire global population and seize their property. And this has been done before. Please see the Great Depression.
On Wednesday, October 23rd, 1929, the first waves of panicky selling began to drive down the price of blue-chip stocks, like Westinghouse and General Electric. The following morning, the fear turned to panic, and brokers began unloading margin accounts at record speed. Stock prices plummeted sickeningly across the board, spurring the rush of sell orders from terrified speculators still more. As anguished shrieks rose up from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, the visitors' gallery was cleared. In less than 2 hours, nearly $10 billion invested in stocks was simply wiped out.
And it appears we are living through a similar fourth turning cycle as we speak. For the state to 6102 Bitcoin, they will likely use none other than their top proxy and probably the real president of the United States, Larry Fink, and BlackRock, along with the other ETFs. The powers that be seek to force us into subservience through their CBDCs. I mean, that's how the ruling class aims to stay relevant and in power while the rest of us, well, own nothing and be happy. Whitney has added that this is why the state, the government, they are throwing everything they have, every ammunition in their arsenal against Bitcoin. The fight is on, and it appears the grand clash is upon us. So what side are you on? And of course, Elizabeth Warren and her crypto army, they talk about cybercrime, etc. But the fact is, many of the groups looking to allegedly combat cybercrime in the US, including the DOJ and the FBI, well, they're kind of part of an international public-private partnership housed within the World Economic Forum. And guess who's on the board of the World Economic Forum? Good old Larry F. Bartholomew Fink. The infamous You Will Own Nothing and Be Happy organization and BlackRock, well, they're the same thing. Same. Different, but same. Now let's go back to the future or something like that. There is another Webb, David Webb, who has laid out his thesis for the Great Taking. In it, Webb discusses what he calls the endgame of a globally synchronous debt accumulation supercycle. He foresees a situation where central banks will seize a massive amount of collateral that would include Bitcoin, the most pristine collateral on the planet, including securities and bank deposits, private properties financed with debt, and this would be on an unprecedented scale. Central banks will, in this scenario, aim to potentially take financial assets and property from customers. This includes the concept of security entitlement, replacing direct securities ownership, and changes in bankruptcy laws favoring secured creditors over ordinary investors. Bitcoin on exchanges? You bet ya that will be included. And Webb also reflected on the Great Depression as a historical precedent for such a large-scale seizure of assets. He notes that during this period, only select banks reopened after the bank holiday. If you remember, the first banks began closing in 1930. It wasn't until 1933 that the full-on bank holiday began. Kind of reminds me of Signature and Silicon and all that stuff. Oh, and not to mention, gold ownership was prohibited. Don't want you to have that sound money. But yeah. Order 6102, all the gold was required to be handed over to the Fed. Don't listen to their fear campaign. It's not about them fighting cybercrime. It's about something much more sinister. In his work, Webb also suggests that despite current concerns about inflation, the actual underlying economic forces are deflationary, and this reminded me some of what we've heard from Cathie Wood as well. But Webb believes that these deflationary forces will lead to the bursting of the everything bubble, setting the stage for the great taking.
It's not about taking their money. It's not about taking their stuff, which they don't need. It's about suppression and subjugation. And that's the lesson when you look at this period in the 1930s. And that is what they have planned for this kind of a cycle again. And they've set up for it. So this plan to take all collateral globally and to collapse the system in a kind of controlled demolition where they end up controlling everything, this design was set in motion over 50 years ago. It may have had a longer planning horizon than that, but we can see actual concrete steps beginning in the 1960s with dematerialization. So when this is unfolding, this wave of insolvencies, and it creates an urgency to take the collateral, people will be terrified. They will be panicked. And we know that fear shuts down critical thinking. So people will be in panic mode.
This is about where we are in the story. And I know it can be scary, but if you want to protect yourself from the great taking, you need to take self-custody of your Bitcoin. And this helps us maintain Bitcoin as that beacon of freedom, there to help any and all escape tyranny. If you need help taking self-custody, getting started, or taking your setup to the next level, well, we got just the guys to get you. Simply Bitcoin Originals are powered by the Bitcoin Way, and as your dedicated Bitcoin IT team, the Bitcoin Way is here to guide you from start to finish on your journey to properly self-custody your Bitcoin. What's more, they've recently introduced 100% focused collaborative custody services, where you'll benefit from advanced multi-sig security, inheritance planning, and much more, while remaining 100% in control. Hey, looking to get started? You can book a free 30-minute call with the Bitcoin Way using that link below. I mean, a lot of people are not ready for the reality that Bitcoin is kind of barreling towards here. The plebs better hurry up because the institutions are coming, nation states are coming, and there's not that much Bitcoin left. You don't want a future where only multi-millionaires of sats can afford to remain self-sovereign and everyone else is forced into custodial arrangements, most of which will become captured and forced to KYC by regulators. Don't be a pendejo. Stay sovereign, keep those sats frosty. Hey, we got Simply IRL tomorrow, Simply Sessions Thursday, and then I'll be back with you guys Friday. Hope you have a good week. I'll catch you next time. Peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, fuck you.